Hey, what's up? Welcome to your mobility snack. Today we're going to focus on hip flexion. So the very first thing I'm going to do is get the hips moving through their fullest range of motion, kind of give myself a self-assessment, and I'm going to start with hip cars. So the very first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a dowel, or you can support yourself against a wall. I'm going to take my leg out in front of me. I'm going to take my leg across the midline into abduction. We're going to do our hip cars. We're going to move through hip external rotation, try to squeeze out as much rotation as we can here and into flexion. And then I'm going to move into hip flexion a little bit more, starting to go into internal rotation and then abduct. So here we're going to abduct as much as we can without rotating through the torso. Once we run out of rotation here, we're going to internally rotate, sweep our leg back into extension. I'm going to turn to the side so you can see that. So sweeping our leg back into extension without dumping through the spine here. And we're going to extend and rotate and bring it all the way so that our knee joins the other knee. I'm going to support myself on this side. From here, we're going to extend back. So our very first movement is extension. So squeezing this stuff right here to pull back. We're going to externally rotate, bringing the leg back up into flexion where we came from. We're going to come back into adduction. Just show you from here. So as we come back into adduction, we're going to begin to externally rotate. So try and squeeze out as much external rotation as you can. And then we're going to take that leg and try and close down and get a little bit of adduction as we finish off our hip car. Okay, that's going to be the first exercise for your mobility snack. I want you to pause the video here and do about 4 or 5 reps on each hip. Welcome back. Here we're going to place a yoga block between the knees. If you don't have a yoga block, that's totally fine. You can take both fists here and place them right between the knees there. Okay, so I'm going to take my yoga block, place it between the knees there. I'm going to sit up nice and tall, and then I'm just going to sneak my legs out here until internal rotation. Internal rotation on both hips. Okay? From here, what I'm going to do is I'm looking for a stretch or a sensation back here in the back of my hips. You might feel a little bit here as well, but I'm looking to find something back here in the hips. So you can shift your pelvis around just a little bit and see if you can find a little bit of a stretch back there. Maybe you have a little bit more internal rotation that you can go into. Okay, now that I've found my stretch, I'm going to hold that stretch for 2 minutes, just breathing. Hang out there, breathe. After I've completed my stretch, what I'm going to begin to do is my pales contraction, which is I'm trying to take this leg here and I'm trying to rotate it this direction. That's going to make the instep of my foot heavy on the floor, and that's going to target or engage this tissue of the inner thighs that would have me scoop into this position here. I'm obviously not going to be able to scoop into that because the floor is blocking that. So I'm going to ramp up to my greatest effort. That's 100% effort. And I'm going to just do one hip at a time, ramp up to my maximum effort. And once I reach my maximum effort, I'm going to hold that for about 10 to 15 seconds. And then I'm going to do my rails contraction, which is to contract this stuff on the outer side of the hip, try and squeeze as much as I can, making the instep of the foot light. So I'm trying to rotate the leg this direction. And I'm going to hold that for 5 to 10 seconds, maximal effort. And I'm going to slowly relax. Then I'm going to switch to this hip and do the same thing. Pause the video here, do your 2-minute passive stretch, followed by your pales contraction and rails contraction for one hip, and then pales contraction and rails contraction for the other hip. Now that you've done your pales and rails for both hips, we're going to just go through a set of cars. So we're going to do 3 to 5 reps, taking our leg through the cars we just did in the beginning. Rotate, move through, just nice and easy, exploring that space that we've just worked on and we've just trained. Get that hip moving again. I want you to pause the video here as you do about 3 to 5 reps just to get the hips moving through that space that we've just blasted open there. Now we're going to do pales and rails for hip flexion. Now, obviously in this position, we're going to be able to, or for some people, you're going to be able to lift off from here. That's not the position I want you to be in. If you don't have anything higher than this, I'm going to show you how you can shift your hips and put your body in a position to where you're at end range. If you have something higher than this, you can maybe stack a couple of books or something to get your leg up at a higher position. That's always a suitable thing that you can do. But what we can also do here is instead of changing the foot position, we can change the relative position. So from here, what I might do is I might bring the belly button forward. So I'm bringing the belly button forward over the hip. And now I'm going to just take my pelvis and I'm going to imagine I have a big belt buckle on the front and I'm going to take it down towards the floor. Imagining my tailbone is turning up towards the ceiling. That should put this tissue here on a stretch, and that should be in a position that doesn't allow me to now lift off of this surface here. And I'm unable to lift off from this surface when I've put myself into that position. Okay, so now I've got a stretch on this tissue here, which is what I want. I'm going to hold that stretch for 2 minutes. After 2 minutes, I'm going to begin to drive down into the box or into the chair or whatever surface that my foot is on. So I'm activating all this stuff here to try and drive down as if I was trying to step up. And I'm going to drive to maximum effort. Once I reach maximum effort, I'm going to hold that for 10 to 15 seconds. After that 10 to 15 seconds, I'm going to reverse that and maximally contract so that I try and pull this thigh to my abdomen. And as I'm trying to pull that thigh to my abdomen, I'm going to hold that for 10 to 15 seconds, and then I'm going to slowly relax. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite hip, followed by another set of hip cars. Pause the video here, go through your 2-minute hold, your patelis contraction, your rails contraction, and your cars, and then meet me back here. Now that you've done your patelis contraction and your cars after your hip flexion, we're going to do a passive range hold. So you're going to steady yourself against a wall or use a staff as I'm doing, and then I'm going to take my leg and I'm going to grab my knee and I'm going to pull up towards me. Now if you can't do that, what you can do is you can grab a strap and pull your leg up into position. But if you can, go ahead and grab the front of the leg, pull into position here. We're going to sniff some air into the abdomen, stand up nice and tall, drive off that standing leg, and we're going to 3, 2, 1, we're going to let go and hold. We're going to hold that, and we're going to try and hold this for up to a minute. You might feel like it's falling down at a certain point, you can't control it anymore. I want you to pull it back up, continue to hold. Okay? After you've completed 1 minute, I want you to do another set of cars, and that'll be the end of today's mobility snack.